Welcome to the Arkansas Organic Chronicles podcast, where we discuss anything, everything, and all things related to certified organic food right here in Arkansas. I'm off the camera here. I'm going to turn that just a hair. There we go. That's better. Well, welcome to the live podcast. I'm Joe Hannon, production instructor at Calf Farm School, and with me today is Luke Freeman, our top Transition to Organic Partnership Program coordinator at Calf. Welcome back to the show, Luke.
Thanks for having me. Great to be out here.
Yeah. Did you have a good birthday party last month?
Oh, yeah. I think it was a kid's birthday party.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was fantastic. Yeah, they turned 4.
Awesome.
It was fun. Yeah.
Congrats on the
4
kiddos.
is a fun age, yeah.
Yes. Well, Caitlin did a great job stepping in, but it's great to have you back. So
Good to be back.
So obviously we are live here on the Calf YouTube and Facebook pages here at the Calf Farm. We don't have a great scenery behind us because the cool stuff is out in front of us, but the wind is coming from that direction, so poor audio quality. So we're sitting in the field, but the view isn't as good. So, well, Luke, it's May. We're back in the full swing of things for spring and summer here. There's a lot to unpack.
There's a lot to unpack.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack. Let's start with what are we sitting in front of? What did we just point the camera out at? And why is there a tractor to our left? And why did we go and put a tent up and all this good stuff?
Yeah, so we have a field day coming up tomorrow. Joe's been working hard on that. It's the weed management field day. If you're not registered for it, don't worry. We'll be doing a lot of video recording, posting on YouTube, so you'll be able to catch that content if you're not able to be here. But it's going to be a really, really good day. Joe, I feel like you'd be best to kind of talk about what people can expect to see tomorrow.
Yeah, so we've been working on this for the last year, and folks will be out practicing scouting weeds in the field, and that's kind of what you saw behind us. Looking at different timings and different equipment for cultivation, bare ground, raised bed, flat beds, no cultivation, sometimes cultivation, sometimes just bale mulch in between the rows. So we've got a lot going on. Claire's going to be out with the robot seeding some peas, so get to see some of the automated work as well. And then off to the left here, folks will be out actually cultivating. So we've got our spider gangs, our finger weeders, our spider baskets. We'll talk more about that one here later. We've got our Tillmore Power Ox. We've got a TerraTech double wheel hole with dual finger weeders on it. So bare ground, plastic culture, lots going on tomorrow. So very hands-on and lots of crazy stuff going on. And of course, we had a tractor break this morning, so we'll see how well it goes between now and then. But we'll get there. Everything else is running. So
yeah, but it's going to be great for anyone interested in kind of larger scale organic production. Mid-scale, we're having to do tractor cultivation. Feels like this is definitely a really important part of organic production is cultivation equipment, but something that we just don't see a lot of education on.
We don't.
So it feels like we're really filling a niche here. And I think really equipping organic farmers or CNG farmers who want to scale up, because mechanizing is a big part of that.
We're even looking at getting our own Power Ox here at Calf to be able to do some cultivation and things on our small scale stuff. We've been so impressed with Tillmore products, but also the Power Ox itself. I mean, it's not even our Power Ox, we're just borrowing it. But yeah, I mean, we'll get to see all that, and you'll have lots of videos. So stay tuned. You're probably all getting sick of us talking about it. So Luke, we've got a 1 acre, give or take, of cabbage, broccoli, or cabbage, kohlrabi, all the brassicas out there. How's it looking? Have you walked through it today?
Yeah, it looks amazing. It's just beautiful. And the really surprising thing is there's just not a lot of pest damage. I mean, usually on organic production, you see quite a bit of damage from, cabbage moth. What? Yeah, tell me about that, Joe. What?
Yeah, so we hit cabbage moth like 3 weeks ago. We had 125 in the trap count from Colin. And then about 4 days after we hit that count, Kaylin came out here and backpack sprayed the whole field with Dipel, which is a BT product, in order to catch those egg hatches. And I feel bad because she had a backpack it because it was so wet we couldn't get in with the tractor. But I think she hit the absolute perfect timing for getting those cabbage moths under control. And then looking at you know, the next couple of weeks of catches, we're down numbers each week over week over week to just having like 8 cabbage moth adults in the trap last week.
Incredible. So it's only been one application?
There's been one application because there just wasn't that many out here this year.
That's amazing.
Right?
Wow.
Because we expected to have a lot. We expected to really take a fair bit of damage with not having netting out there, and
yeah,
you wouldn't know it. You'd swear there was netting that we just pulled off prior to this event.
Yeah, and that really shows the reason to trap, because if I weren't trapping, I would just assume I would need to be spraying every time after a rain, just keeping the dipel on it. So
but that's not been the case this year. The case
awesome.
has absolutely been that we got some cabbage moth. We got some. So what happens when you're live on the farm? Well, I mean, that's what happens though. Like, we had just apparently not great weather for cabbage moth, and there isn't even white cabbage moth or white cabbage butterflies flying around here. So like, we just have neither of the complexes out here to worry about, and it shows.
Yeah,
it really shows.
It's a very, very clean field, beautiful plants.
Yeah,
and I remember last year it felt like, if I'm remembering correctly, in the large scale, there was insect netting over every row. Can you talk about why you guys didn't go with insect netting?
Yeah. So one, we didn't want to lay it by hand. That's just way too much work at scale. I mean, it's just not realistic, right? To lay an acre. I mean, there's 12 rows of plastic over there, 10 rows of plastic over there. That's just too much. So this year we didn't, because we wanted to, if we're going to lay it, we want to lay it with a machine. And we don't have one of those. And yes, we could get one, but yeah. But we're also trying to get rid of a lot of our weeds in our field. And so if you look through our main production fields, they're really weedy. We just have a lot of weed pressure, and going through and trying to do a lot of cultivation in order to get the weed seed bank kind of knocked down, and then be able to come back in and put row covers on later.
Okay.
So I don't know if you know, but a lot of folks may not know that we've kind of completely revamped our production practices, and you start changing a lot of stuff too. I mean, that's just too much to change at once. So it was, okay, let's make some basic changes. Let's start working on getting our cultivation practices under control, get the weeds under control, and then we can look at row covers later.
Got it. Yeah.
I mean, once you put that row cover on, there's no cultivating.
Yeah. And right now it's, the weeds are more of a problem.
The weeds are more of a problem, and they have been for us in a while. And that's sapping water, that's sapping nutrients. So
yes,
that's a goal for us, to get our fields to a point where we could come in with row covers, or if we were doing maybe fall brassicas where we're a little bit drier. But when you got 3 weeks of rain in the spring, you got weeds, and we had to get out there and cultivate even within that rainy period. Otherwise, well, it would look like that. Get a picture out there, but it's weedy.
Yeah, it's weedy. Yeah, that's just a good example of those trade-offs,
right,
that have to be made.
We had to pick a battle.
You had to pick a battle.
So
okay, so we've been talking about large scale. How about the small scale? What's that pest control strategy for the small scale?
I think the pest on the small scale makes a lot more sense to put row covers in. You know, you're looking at a couple rows 100 foot long versus 10 rows 600 foot long.
Okay.
I think it's a lot easier, and you can see one of our incubates is putting row covers on currently on some of her brassicas and whatnot, but it's a lot easier, I think, to do.
Yes. Yeah, and especially if you're not having to get in and out of the field with the tractor.
Yeah. She's not coming in and out of the field. She can reach through and do a little bit of hoeing and stuff by hand in between the rows, but she's also using tarping and a lot of other stuff to get that weed seed bank population down. And that field that the incubator's in was a lot cleaner field. So Jonathan had taken really good care of that field, and it was pretty clean going in. So they don't have the same weed pressure either. But if I was small scale, yeah, absolutely. I'm going to preference towards using row covers. And even on large scale, like, that's where we'd like to go. Just, you got to make steps.
Yeah. And you were saying the field was too wet to get the large scale sprayer. What's that piece of equipment, that large scale sprayer?
So it's our New Holland tractor. So it's our 75 horsepower tractor that goes through. And then we have a 50-gallon boom sprayer on the back of it that will cover out, I think, 3 or 4 rows, probably 3 rows at a time.
Wow. Okay.
And so trying to get through that with that much weight, we just couldn't do it.
I see.
But we could get in there with our smaller, lighter tractors for a little bit of light cultivation. And there was one day for a couple hours where we were able to sneak out there. Actually, I think Riley and the farm school students were able to sneak out and get a bunch of cultivation done kind of in the middle of that wet period. So, which we wouldn't be able to do with the big tractor.
Yes.
So.
But normally it's not going to be that much time to get out there with a tractor and that boom sprayer to spray the insecticide.
Well, normally, yeah, you'd like to be able to get out there and do it and not have to do it by hand, but
yeah,
we had 20 inches of rain or something like that. So what are you going to do, right?
yeah, I know. So. Yeah, so talking about rain, is that the next thing we want to talk about?
Yeah, that's honestly kind of where I was going too.
Yeah, so that's been, gosh, a huge, I'm sure an annoyance for you. The field's just being so dang wet all spring, and I'm sure that's been difficult getting out there with the tractors to cultivate. Yeah,
it's been difficult, but I don't know if you had noticed on our the brassica field though, it's pretty clean. Like we got in there and got the weeds cut or pruned out. One thing I'll notice though, because we've got some side by side for bare ground and raised bed plastic, that those raised beds hold a lot of water in between the rows, and so you're delayed getting in there. Versus we've got some brassicas on flat ground, we're able to get in there sometimes a couple days earlier and actually get cultivated. So our flat ground brassicas were cultivated more often than the plastic ones were.
That's such a good observation.
And then want to throw your brain even further, the Power Ox is able to get in a couple hours sooner than our little cultivator tractors. So we were actually able to get in the morning one day with the Power Ox, and we had to wait until 3 or 4 in the afternoon to get in with our little John Deere cultivator tractor. It's just that time difference there. So if you're looking at hours, that little Power Ox might be the window to get in.
Power Ox on flat ground.
The Power Ox on flat ground. I was impressed.
Okay,
It was literally a couple hours that we were able to get in earlier to do some bare ground cultivation. And then it finally dried out enough we could come in and actually cultivate the rest of the field.
Yeah, that is a really great observation, because I do think this has been the trend recently. We just get really wet springs.
Yeah, and I don't think that's going to change.
I don't think it's going to change. And for an organic farm that's mid-scale, large-scale, relying on mechanical cultivation, that's really the Achilles heel. If your field stays wet, you can't get out there to cultivate. I mean, you're going to lose a crop.
But I mean, the nice thing about the finger weeders and the Power Ox, it's so light, and those finger weeders are only going down a 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch, or something like that.
Yeah.
So you're just kind of floating across the ground. You're not really causing any harm, and you're able to kind of pluck out those weeds, at least kind of in row.
Yeah.
I'm just so worried about the ones that are in the row middles. Those are pretty easy to come back later if they're bigger, but getting those in row ones with the Power Ox, and it's not a big deal to go do 10 rows 100 feet long with it, because it does all the work. You just walk.
Yes.
And it's a lot lighter than a BCS. So I know if you're used to running a BCS, that's heavy.
Right.
Power Ox is not. Well, you ran the Power Ox.
It's real easy. Yeah. Yeah, it's real easy.
So
that's good. So that's would be a nice kind of tool to have in the toolbox, the Power Ox, if you need to get out there early.
Yeah, I've been impressed.
Yeah. So talking about trade-offs, I mean, if someone was going with bare ground as opposed to plasticulture, just so that they could make sure to get out in the field for cultivation, I mean, are you seeing much of a difference in terms of the growth of these brassicas, bare ground versus plasticulture? I mean, do you have a sense of how much earlier those brassicas are going to be on the plasticulture just because of the warmer soil?
I really don't. Okay. We didn't get direct side-by-side planting. Okay. Our plasticulture went in about a week to 10 days before.
I see.
So like our bare ground ones went in like the day before the rain hit.
I see.
Whereas our plasticulture was in a week or two ahead of that. So I wish I did. I don't.
But you would expect the plasticulture to be a little earlier, wouldn't you?
You would expect.
Yes.
You would expect it to be earlier.
Yeah.
I will say whole blight on the bare grounds. Yeah, you got to account for that.
Count for what?
Whole blight. cultivator blight. There's definitely more cultivator blight on the background.
I heard it that one before.
You never heard that?
That's good.
There's plenty of hoe blight going on. And as we were trying to learn how to drive, yeah, no. We're like, sorry, Caitlin.
Yeah.
But
A heavy thinning.
yeah, it was a little excessive. I think part of it is just us learning to drive it and really, you don't look down, you look down the row.
Yes.
And watch and steer the tractor, and then the cultivator floats behind it.
Mm-hmm.
I will say we had a lot more hoe blight with the Power Rocks than when we did with the John Deere cultivator.
Mm-hmm.
And the John Deere cultivator didn't have fingers on it, but we still had shovels pretty close. And we were probably just Ari and I are better at driving that.
Yeah, and what I experienced with the Power Rocks, the fact that it can sway.
Yeah.
Once you get off, it's really hard to correct.
Yep. You almost got to stop and pick up the cultivator and set it back on center.
Exactly.
And if your rows aren't straight,
there's also that.
There's also that.
Yeah. That all comes with practice.
It does. Yeah. And you get better at it pretty quick. So.
Yes.
Yeah, we should probably talk bad. We planted beets right before the rain set in.
Oh, did you? I don't see any.
Oh! Yeah, because the couple that came up got cultivated under. Thanks, Luke. We were trying to be smart, trying to get planted right before the rain came in, and then we got 20 inches of rain, not a couple inches of rain, and they didn't come up.
Yeah.
So they got cultivated under, and we reseeded on Monday, I think.
Okay.
So it sucks, but it is what it is, right?
Yeah.
If we were maybe a week earlier, maybe they would have been okay, but we were so dry even a week earlier. I don't know. Because we had planted a couple demo plots into that dry ground and they didn't come up either. So
Yeah. Yeah, that just points to the difficulty of direct seeding in the spring with these weather patterns. So you got transplants, you're good to go.
Transplants weren't so bad, and we can run drip tape, and we've got drip tape buried in our bare ground and stuff too. But with the beets and stuff, you got to have overhead, and that the lack of overhead kind of inhibited us from getting planted early because we didn't have the system set up yet.
I see.
We were still trying to figure out what we were going to do. And so then we're like, okay, well, it's going to rain. So we'll just plant before you get an inch or two of rain. I was like, perfect. Not 10 times that.
Yeah, exactly. 20 inches, not perfect.
Yeah, but I think we got cultivated, reseeded, planted back into actual moist soil. So I'm really anxious to see how they come up after that. So,
okay.
I know some folks are already harvesting beets and carrots. We're behind the 8 ball.
So it goes.
It is. So, speaking of the beets and the cultivators, though, were you out here to see the spider baskets in progress?
No, I didn't get to see that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we have a new cultivator. It's spiders, so it's just sharp metal steel that is then chained up to some like wire hose, spinning wire hose. And the spiders just kind of go nice and slow, but then the chains attached to the wire part spins about twice as fast. And so those spiders just kind of like grab and dig into the soil and kind of bust up after that hard 20 inches of rain. And then the baskets, because they're on a chain, but they're geared faster, they're spinning about twice as fast, and they're actually kicking up a lot of the weeds. So we spent money and bought A-blades. We bought tender hose. I don't know if I'm ever going to use them. The spider baskets are so nice and so easy.
Nice.
Larry came over and was helping set them up the other day, and we made a couple of tweaks, and he's just driving down the road, and he didn't hit a single row of stuff coming up. Like, it was that easy to operate, and it's set up underneath the mid mount, our little offset Kubota.
Okay,
it's fantastic.
Yeah,
I love it. I love the spider baskets as much as I love the finger weeders on the plastic.
Okay,
like, I'm impressed.
Okay, that's great. That's great.
It wasn't cheap. And ask Ari how it went putting it together. He'll probably swear, so we won't do it on air. But
worth it, huh?
Once we got it together, it's fantastic. It is absolutely fantastic, and it's just that really mild half-inch cultivation, and you can kind of set that depth pretty easily.
Okay, and this is just for direct seeded crops.
Direct seeded crops. Okay. Yep, it'd be for beets, carrots, lettuce, onions, You'd probably use it with garlic, but anything that's direct seeded, and up to about maybe 6 inches tall.
Okay,
At that
that was
point, then
gonna
you
be
got
my
to switch
next
out to
question.
something else.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. 6 inches tall. With something like beets, would you expect to have to do a few more cultivation passes, or would you have canopy cover by then?
We're expecting to have to come through with some small A blades and do straight down through it. But the nice thing about the A blades, they'll toss some soil onto the rows. So if our beets start to shove out a little bit, well, we'll take those A blades, drive through there at a pretty quick pace, and they'll just kind of cover over. So I think that's somewhat intentional with the beets or the carrots that we're going to come through probably regardless.
I see.
And they just have a nice straight shank, so they should slide right through the leaves, not cause any harm. Our rows are 10 inches wide, or 10-inch row center to row center, and we went with like a 5-inch A blade. So it should be pretty easy to slide through there and just toss.
Okay, because you were mentioning not needing to use the tinder hose. So you're saying just the baskets and the A blades, that would be enough of a cultivator setup?
I think so.
Okay, for these direct seeded root crops.
I'll be honest, I got the tender hose and didn't have a lot of experience with them. And once you go in with the tender hoe after the ground is kind of crusted over, it just chunks a lot more. And so you actually cause some damage to your plants a lot more.
Interesting.
Whereas if you're coming back through with the spiders, they're not chunking and they're not tossing. They're just kind of grinding and clawing.
Yeah.
And it's not any directional. And then you don't really get that directional flow until you switch over to the A blades.
And that, I mean, that would help after you have a rain that could cause some crusting. You're breaking up that crust, allowing air in the soil. So it's just good for plant health too.
Yeah. And then the wires just kind of kick anything out. So you're not really doing cultivating with the spiders. They're just busting it. Yeah. And then just the wire, basically just the wire out.
Very cool.
But it just rolls. So there's
Well, cool. Well, we'll definitely be producing plenty of video content on that cultivator. So stay tuned.
I am absolutely blown away.
That's awesome.
So let me see here. I think we talked about all of that. Cool. Should we move on to spring nitrogen assessment?
Yeah, let's talk about nitrogen.
Cool.
Let's talk about nitrogen.
This is tough. I'm going to get this one started and throw it at you.
No.
So, Luke, we were talking about nitrogen assessments probably back in March at this point and doing a nitrogen calculation.
Yes.
Now that we are plants in the ground, our brassicas our spring crops are in the ground. Some of them are harvested. Some still have a few weeks to go for harvest. We just had 20 inches of rain. What are your thoughts about supplemental nitrogen at this point on the spring crops?
Yeah, to me, I mean, I would just start with a visual assessment.
Yeah.
Just because so much of it is dependent on soil temperature, soil moisture, and all that. I mean, you might have enough nitrogen in the soil with the pre-plant application, but can the plants actually access it? And I mean, I know just in our garden at home, I mean, I noticed some nitrogen deficiency in our spinach, which is pretty common in the spring.
But did you see that right after the rain stopped, or has it cleared up since it's warmed up and dried out a little bit?
You're right. It was right after the rain stopped. And I mean, this is just our garden. So I came in with some liquid fish, hydrolyzed fish, which helped. And now that the rain stopped and you got, good sun exposure, soil's drying, biological activity. Yeah, those leaves are greening up. So that's, I mean, what I did on a larger scale, I mean, blood meal would be a good, quick shot of nitrogen if you want to go with a granular and not a liquid.
Yeah.
What have you guys seen out here at CAF?
Nothing.
Yeah, I mean,
under the plastic, we didn't have any leaching. I think even with all that rain, it was cold. I don't think a lot of it had been necessarily biologically converted to active forms yet. So I don't think we lost a lot. And I don't think we have any intentions of doing any supplemental at this point, at least on all the early plastic culture. Maybe the later bare ground stuff, but we're just not seeing the deficiency. Things kind of warmed up, and we got a ton of rain, but if it was in a form that wasn't leachable and went out in a form that was available to the plants, it's still there. Or a lot of it should still be there.
Yeah. Would you advise someone to wait and see? Like after a period of heavy rainfall and you're seeing some nitrogen deficiency, would you advise a farmer to wait a few days to let the soil dry out, or just go ahead and put it out if you're seeing some deficiency?
That's usually wait until you get past field capacity, or wait till you get to field capacity. So saturation being all the water, all the pores are full of water. Wait until that dries out and drains out a little bit. You get back to field capacity and start to kind of continue to dry out. When you're under anaerobic conditions, it may not even be a nitrogen deficiency. It may be something else that's causing some of that yellowness. So wait, see how plants respond, and then act.
Yeah, that's wise. Yeah,
And
especially if, I mean, you're going to be putting a lot of money out in the field.
And for us, I'm glad we waited because they don't need it. And maybe on like some of our bare ground stuff that's a little bit later, we'll come back in and do a plant tissue sample here in another week and kind of see where we're at. And then if we can need supplemental, we can add some at that point. And there's still plenty of time. But like today, they're harvesting kohlrabi. So putting nitrogen on last week would have been no value.
Yes.
So,
right.
And our brass, I don't think a lot of our other stuff is too far out for the early. So, but so wait and see. Let things kind of come around and just see what happens when the soil starts to dry out. And then, grab a plant tissue sample. And
that's wise.
We're in just getting a lot of our warm season crops in. Outside, we're probably, what is this? Yeah, we're about a week late just due to the rain. I mean, why put it out when it's going to rain for 10 days? Like, there's no point. You're just introducing problems. So, and that we'll come back in and address supplemental fertilizer needs later. But for right now, I'm not too worried about that.
Okay.
That was all pre-planted. Emergency warning system's going to go off, folks. So let's keep moving along here. So let's talk about plasticulture, bare ground, landscape fabric, and mulch. We'll let the emergency alarm go off, but there is sirens. Good.
Just a test.
Tornadoes. All right. What's your feeling on plasticulture in the field?
Yeah, it depends on the scale, honestly. I mean, for say mid to large scale organic production, I really like plastic mulch.
Yeah.
I know people feel uncomfortable with using that much plastic in the field, but it helps so much for weed control. I mean, especially if you're dealing with a field where you don't have your weeds under control. And then just plants love growing on plastic.
Yeah.
I mean, that increased warmth in the spring really, really helps trapping soil moisture. The raised beds, I'm a big fan of plastic mulch. I think it definitely has a place for organic production, especially kind of an earlier farm. I mean, if you're transitioning to organic, and you're in those early years of organic production, go with plastic mulch. Maybe you get to the point on your farm where weeds are under control and you don't need it, but it's really helpful.
Cultivating bare ground, flatbed soils is pretty easy. Cultivating large raised beds of bare ground, it's a whole nother caveat of stuff to introduce. It's a lot harder.
Yes.
It's done. It's definitely done, but it's a lot harder. So, I'm a fan of plastic. I think it has its place, though. I would also kind of one of those, like, I would like to be able to move away from it eventually as we dial our systems in and get better with our cultivators, going that route and pulling raised beds of no plastic and cultivating off of that. And we can do that. It's just, it's going to be hard. And we're not there.
Yes. And as we talked about earlier, I think that was a really good point. In the spring, you might want to do your early spring crops on bare ground just to make sure you can get in the field and cultivate when you need to. And then maybe late spring and then summer crops could be on raised bed plasticulture. I think that's good to just deal with all that rainfall we get in the spring. Yeah.
And frankly, for us, like, we have such a hard layer down into our ground, not too terribly deep. So having that raised bed almost doubles our root zone.
Yeah,
probably not double it, but it adds about another third.
Yeah, which is significant when we don't have very deep soils here in the Ozarks.
No, I mean, I was subsoiling at 12 to 15 inches down, and that's about as deep as I could go in these fields because I pulled up rocks. There's a lot of rocks.
Exactly. Yes.
So yes, it has its place, but I also think bare ground has a place. Obviously for carrots, beets, lettuce, things like that. Small scale, large scale, I think is a huge opportunity for it there. I think there's a lot of opportunity for brassicas and things that are short term.
Yes.
I'm not sure I'm a huge fan of it of longer seasoned crops. So a longer season tomato, melon, something like that.
No.
That
no.
90 to 120 day.
Yeah, especially in the summer. And yeah, with our summers just being so hot, I would really like to see that soil covered, even if it's covered under plastic. Even from a soil health perspective, I just think you're preserving soil organic matter by keeping it under that plastic mulch and not having to, go through and cultivate it to death.
Yes.
Throughout the summertime.
Yeah. I mean, a couple cultivation passes for brassica is not a big deal.
Yes.
You're cultivating all summer long. That gets kind of hard.
Yeah. So, I mean, soil health, just degrading soil structure and all that.
Yeah. And you can see that in our brassica field. You can see the soil structure is very different than Bertucci's field where we're sitting out here. Just because we had to cultivate a lot more last year to get it under control. So.
Yeah.
What's your feeling on? So we got some old round bales here that we baled up from the farm. A lot of grass, a lot of weeds, a lot of other miscellaneous stuff in there.
Mystery bale.
What's your feeling? What's your thought on using like a straw mulch? A quality straw mulch for weed control, either in small scale or large scale.
Yeah, I've seen organic farmers use it. I don't know if she's still doing it, but Liz Grosnick at Happy Hollow Farm, at least last time I checked, she was doing a lot of straw mulch in her tomatoes.
Okay.
The big thing is just getting high quality straw where you're not seeding wheat. I mean, that's
100%.
And if you're using hay, just knowing the field where the hay is coming from, making sure it's cut before that hay crop goes to seed. That's the big thing. It's kind of like quality control when it comes to your hay or your straw. I've honestly been seeing less straw on organic farms, I think because of the seed issue. The weed seed issue. Also, like in hay, for example, there's some issue with persistent herbicides. So you might get some unintended herbicide damage just from these persistent herbicides like picloram.
Which is not going to go well with your organic certification.
It's not going to go well with your organic certification. So I just say there's a lot of risk. I mean, there's of course the benefit of adding soil organic matter. If you have a high quality straw, I mean, it can be really good for weed suppression and contributing to organic matter, but then it can just go really bad. It can go wrong. Like dealing with a wheat cover crop you didn't intend to seed.
We can't see it on camera from here, but on the far end of our field, you can see there's some green in between the first rows of mulch down there, and that's all cover crop, bale, seed, rye, whatever it was. It's just a sea of green coming up through there, and you can't do anything about it. There's no cultivating it. It's just there. But I think if you're growing your own cover crop and you're roller crimping down and planting into it, I think there's a lot of value there. Yeah. There's a lot that can go wrong, but if you can get the system dialed in, I think there's a phenomenal value there.
Oh, totally. And if you're growing your own, that'd be fantastic. Yeah. You know what you're putting down.
Yep.
Yeah, for sure.
So it's got its time in this place. Being an Iowa boy, we used to have like tub grinders. And we would grind up corn stalks and dump it in between the rows.
Nice.
Well, it sounds good, but corn stalks are high carbon.
Would you get some nitrogen tie up?
Yeah, big time. Yeah, we'd end up with a lot of nitrogen deficiency showing up.
Wow, yeah. That's another thing.
It sounds like a really good idea until you do it, and you're like, what?
Yeah, exactly. So. Yeah, and honestly, I think the tarps, like the use of silage tarps, has really taken the place of a reliance on organic mulches like straw on organic farms. I think that's the reason. Like I'm just seeing more people using tarps, less people using straw on the kind of small scale.
And they work.
Organic farms.
I mean, they work really good.
Really, really well.
Yeah. And then you can move from tarps, you can move right over to like landscape fabric.
Yes.
And I'm personally one of those. I like to buy the 15-foot wide rolls of landscape fabric and just cover a bunch of rows and walkways all at once.
Ah,
I know a lot of people use like the 4-foot wide landscape fabric.
yes.
I want to cover the whole shebang.
I see.
Frankly, I think it's just easier to work with. But
Yes, less staples.
less staples, bigger area. You start getting a few things kind of held down. It stays there. Not easy to
Okay.
pull up.
Yeah. Yeah. Nice. I really don't see that.
Mhm.
Because most people are doing like per bed.
Per
you know,
bed,
a single row. Of
Yeah, really
landscape
the only time I see it common is in a high tunnel of tomatoes and cucumbers or something like that.
Yeah,
But
that would really
aside
make
from
sense
that.
there. Mhm.
But again, I think it works really well. And if you have kind of a standardized bed system, standardized planting system, you can use that landscape fabric 4 or 5 years
Yes,
pretty
exactly.
easily.
Yes.
It holds up pretty well.
Yes. Yeah. And is a great solution to long-term summer crops on small scale production.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, I would never use it on half acre. It's not cost effective. And
No.
I'm not laying landscape fabric on a half acre, but I've seen it done.
Yes, yeah.
Mhm.
Especially if you're able to reuse it, it
Yeah.
can become cost effective. Yeah.
Yeah, I think one of the challenges with it though is with the irrigation system and getting that drip tape underneath it so
Yes.
that the water goes into the soil and not runs down the mat a ways and then goes in wherever it decides to go in.
Yes,
So
you definitely need your drip tape underneath.
a little bit of an issue.
Mhm.
But,
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Aside from that, I'm a fan of it. I think it's got its place.
Oh yeah, and I use it a lot in our garden at home.
Yeah, I used to use it a lot, and then
yeah. The most annoying thing is just burning those dang holes.
Yeah,
I mean, you can buy it, some of them, pre-cut with the holes, but that's just.
Yeah, we've got a really
Time
nice
intensive.
little round contraption here at Cath that you heat up and poke through, and that works pretty slick.
Yes.
But yeah, I've done more just take the torch and go. "Brr,
Yep.
brr."
Exactly.
I'm like, well, hole that big, hole that big.
Exactly.
It's great. It's really doing what we're supposed to be doing here. So, all right. So we covered landscape fabrics and bare ground plastic culture. We talked about nitrogen. We talked about equipment. We talked about field day. We talked about rain. I think that's it. You have anything else you want to talk about? I know what we should talk about.
What should we talk about?
What's the good news you found out yesterday? About Top.
Top is going to continue. We heard officially that funds are being released, so the Top program is going to continue through 2026.
Yes.
That part is guaranteed. Hopefully longer, but at least through 2026. So. Yep. You'll continue to get to see us, our smiling faces,
hear us.
Hear us.
But if you're also working with the mentorship program, you'll get to continue those relationships and things like that too. So
yes.
Some really good positives from that. I'm really happy that they continued us.
Yes.
Just as we're starting to get wheels on the ground and functional.
I know. We're really starting to gain traction, and I think what was very clearly communicated was we are seeing real impact from the Top program. It is helping farmers transition to organic. We're seeing more organic acreage throughout the U.S., more domestic production of certified organic crops, which is needed. So, I mean, I think that's all. It's not just that, Top program is continuing, but the Top program has shown to be effective.
Yeah.
And is actually showing results. So that's also great news.
That's awesome. And when we're looking at trying to grow our own food and being food reliant on ourselves, that's huge plus. So,
exactly. Yeah. Yeah. I'm glad you mentioned that, Jeff.
Yeah. So look, I think maybe next month, how about we do a field walk? Actually take the camera and the laptop and go around and look at crops and just talk crop by crop, what's looking good, what's not looking good on the next one.
That'd be awesome.
Let's do that.
Let's do it.
All right. Well, everybody that tuned in, tuned out, thank you for stopping in, taking a little bit of listening to our 4th or 5th live podcast episode now. So again, we're on the second Tuesday of the month. So we'll be back in early June. If you've got an idea or you just want to host a live session, poke us a note. We're happy to come out from your farm and have you on the show and maybe walk around a little bit. So, all right. Well, this podcast was supported in part by the USDA Ag Marketing Service Transition to Organic Partnership Program and the University of Arkansas Division of Agriculture. We'll talk to everybody again soon. And Luke, thank you so much for joining the show today.
It's always a pleasure.
All right. Thanks so much, everybody. Take care.
Bye.